Hi, this week we are going to continue our studies into the origins of criminal behavior. We're going to be focusing on learning and situational factors that influence criminal behavior. Much of what we're going to be talking about is based on the behavioralism perspective in psychology. This was influenced by people such as Pavlov, Skinner, and Watson. To be considered a behavior needs to be observable and measurable. This perspective looks at the social environment as well as the learning environment, and those are key factors into being able to do what we want to be able to do, and that is to be able to predict and control behavior. The behavioralism perspective is made up of both classical conditioning, such as if somebody is insulted, they might punch the person in the face as an absolute reflex because their limbic system takes over and they sock them. Where operant conditioning is they might think about it for a second and they decide to punch somebody because they realize that they're gonna, feel better because they hit somebody. In short, that's a difference between the classical and operant conditioning. Just to review the principles of operant conditioning, I will also want to throw in an example of home invasion burglary into the mix as we go through each one of these four principles. One is positive reinforcement. Positive reinforcement increases a behavior because of it produces a pleasant stimulus. In this case, when you burglarize, you're going to get something you want, likely, and that will increase your behavior and create more and more burglaries by that person. Negative reinforcement also increases behavior because it removes adversive stimulus. So if they know that the people aren't home, they're more likely to go into that house because they're less likely to be confronted by the owners. If they're in an area where it's dark and there's no police, that'll also increase criminal activity in that area and increase the likelihood their house will get burglarized. And then there's punishment, which if somebody gets caught, obviously that will decrease the likelihood that they're going to do it again if they're punished in a way that really impacts them. When somebody has habitual type of theft, such as kleptomania, people are going to look at extinction programs to eliminate that type of behavior altogether. Another theoretical paradigm that we're going to look at is cognitive learning. Cognitive learning involves the formation of our concepts, our worldview, attitudes, beliefs, schemas which are basically the template that all other thoughts, beliefs, attitudes are built off of, which are very much influenced by our early experiences, but they're also influences by things that go on throughout our life. For example, somebody may grow up in a real normal household, have a pretty normal childhood, have a pretty normal adulthood, but then they have a lot of stresses in their life. They lose a job, they are in an abusive relationship, they have some antisocial friends, they get hooked on drugs or alcohol. This starts really impacting the person's worldview and will make it more likely that they're going to create criminal behaviors. So it's real important to look at our thoughts and our outlooks on life to help identify thoughts that may make it more likely or less likely to develop criminal behaviors. Social learning continues to generate the human component within behavioralism. Social learning suggests that people learn through observing and listening to the people around us. Differential association basically is learning to engage in criminal behaviors through the interpersonal interactions that we have within our social environment. So if we have antisocial peers, antisocial role models, antisocial parents, aunts, uncles, if we gravitate towards violence within the media and see that, we're more likely to imitate people and learn to develop the cognitions that make it more likely that we're going to engage in criminal behavior. In the early 1900s, Edwin Sutherland's differential association theory was basically the dominating theory within criminal psychology. Sutherland believed that there were some critical factors that influenced a person's criminal behavior and social learning. And this is with whom a person associates, for how long they associate with that person, how frequently they associate with that person, how meaningful the relationship, and how early in the person's development did they meet that person. So looking at all those things combined, we can start to formulate some ideas about how likely it is that that contact with that person is going to make it more likely that this person is going to engage in criminal behavior. Frustration-induced crimes happen when people are prevented from responding in ways where they previously responded and obtained some type of positive reinforcement or reward. These can be split into socialized and individualized offenders. And it may help explain the Los Angeles riots in the early 1990s, as well as looting and violence that stems from the aftermath of natural disasters, such as Hurricane Katrina. Nevertheless, there are many examples of peaceful demonstrations following stressful events. So therefore, frustration-induced crimes may be more of a exception than a rule. Nevertheless, when there's a lot of stress going on in the social environment, criminal behavior possibly may be more likely to happen. Fundamental attribution errors, basically blaming a person's personality traits rather than looking at more of the whole picture. For example, there's some studies that suggest that correctional officers are more likely to explain the criminal behaviors within their inmates as being more personality driven, such as they're lazy, they're mean. Where the inmates are more likely to explain their criminal behaviors on being environmentally driven, such as growing up in poverty and having a difficult upbringing. Fundamental attribution errors may help form our self-serving biases. Crimes of obedience occur when people follow orders from a person that has power or authority over that person. People are also more at risk of criminal behavior when they lose their sense of self and individuality and get involved in more group mentality, crowd mentality, and they lose some of their self-imposed controls and moral restraints. A good example of this is the Stanford prison experiment, where people were randomly selected to be either guards or prisoners, and the study had to be ended early because the guards started really being very cruel to the inmates. Other examples that can be significant situational instigators of crime include riots, gang rapes, lynchings, gang violence, and things like that.